one. Um, and we got some more interesting topics that we want to talk about. I mean, I got a client right now that's truly building some wealth, and we'll get to a lot of that in a minute. But the first way, Eric, Eric, you there? You can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, man, I can hear you good, bro.
Good deal. Good deal.
All right, man. Well, thanks for tuning in, Eric. This is our first live. Lives are very popular on Facebook, and so Eric and I we decided to do a live, and don't know what we're getting into, but we know the subject matter. And so, Eric, talk a little bit about why it's so important for people to get the right type of life insurance. And we believe you should buy term. Okay, now
Yes.
it can be a controversial topic, but at the end of the day, we know term is better. So explain to the audience why term is better.
Well, again, man, I appreciate you deciding to do this, man, because I am not this live person and
Right,
be going on Facebook and I post a
right.
lot on Facebook, but doing this
Yeah,
live and stuff is kind of foreign to me. But like you said, the topic tonight is extremely important, and I will just say this for starters that we need to have insurance. Period.
yeah,
A lot of people in our community don't have any insurance whatsoever. But specifically, in terms of why I prefer term
yeah,
over a lot of other different policies out there is number one. I feel like just based on my experience and what I've seen, you get an extremely lot more a larger amount of coverage for less money than you would get in some other policies.
so,
Um,
so, so Eric, give everybody an example of the industry average policy versus our industry average.
um, that's a good question, Coach. I don't know exactly. I hadn't really studied into detail that far, but I know our average policies is going to be well 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 or
Yeah.
more when you got other companies that are 15, 20,000. You know, just a lot
So Eric,
less.
so Eric, let's spend some time on that, right? Because our average policy with our company, and we're not going to get into company names. We're just going to talk about the philosophy of buy
Right,
term investor difference. So
right.
the average policy that we do is about 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
The industry average is about 50,000.
Mm-hmm. Big
So
difference.
get into why it's important for people to leave large amounts of money versus smaller amounts of money.
Oh man, it's just so many reasons and so many benefits to that. You're talking about wealth creation. You're talking about being able to, if you're married and you're the dominant, primary breadwinner in your family, and you pass away. I mean, you want to be able to, if you're married, for example, you want to be able to have enough money to, if you got a mortgage, pay the mortgage off. If you got young children, you want to be able to send you want those young children to still be able to go to college. Um, your wife, might be, of course she's going to be extremely devastated and hurt for a while. She may not want to, if she's working, she may not want to go back to work for a while. And I'm telling you, a a burial policy or 20,000 or $50,000 policy is not going to do those things. It's not
Correct.
going to be able to have, for the kids to be able to go to college off of that, for the mortgage to get paid off of that, for the income that's lost from the breadwinner
Right.
to be replaced for, a certain amount of time. It's just not going to happen.
So Eric, when
So,
you talk about the average person, and by the way, you all, 90% of our communities have a low coverage type of policy. And that could be 15,000, 25,000, 50,000. And so what happens is when somebody passes away in most of our communities, we either have to come together and see how we can pay for the service, let's just say they have 25,000. So Eric, I'm, I'm a client. I'm bringing a check to you from my insurance company for 25,000. Break that down to me and Eric, and kind of tell me what type of money is going to be left after I bring you a check for 25,000.
Yeah, the average funeral um nowadays is about $15,000
That's correct.
on average. So if all we got is a check for 25,000, I mean that's basically $10,000 that's left.
Right.
What is the again, some insurance is better than no insurance, but what what is the family going to be able to do with just $10,000 left, especially if there's kids involved, especially if there's a mortgage involved, all these other things, you know. And also, Coach Rowe, I just don't know, man. I just think that we got to figure out a way to get this message out to more people when it comes to substantial amount of life insurance, period. Because
Right.
when I don't know about you, but I'm 51. God willing, I'll turn 52 next month, and
Right.
I've been to, um, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, a lot of funerals over the
Correct.
years.
Correct.
In the funerals that I've attended, I promise you, ain't nobody leaving wealth.
That's correct.
You know,
That's correct.
and you know I got this joke, man, between me and my wife. I always laugh and say that I'm worth more dead than alive,
Right.
because
Right.
of the amount of insurance I carry on me. But that's just because I just want to be sure that if something happens to me, our kids are straight, she is straight. And I also joke around, and I always say that, hey, if she decides to, remarry after I'm gone, she must have really loved this dude because she ain't gonna need him
Right.
because of how I'm gonna leave, leave
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. You're gonna leave them in real good shape, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So Eric, when you think about it, and, after the funeral, you got about 10,000 left,
right,
and that's not going to last long. You know,
correct.
6 months. You talking about people that went, get $1 million or 2 million or 10 million. They broke in 3 years. Think about 10,000. I
Right,
mean, you're gonna blow through 10,000 like that.
right.
So let's say, for example, Eric. Oh, and by the way, you all, we're doing free policy checkups. You know, this is a perfect time to look at your policy and see what it is you have. And for those of you that are tuned into our live, if you have questions, drop it in the comments. And if you have a detailed question, you can inbox Eric or you can inbox myself, and we'll do a free policy check just to go over your individual policies. And so Eric, so let's say, for example, and we'll get into the dime in just a few minutes, but let's say somebody leaves, let's just say $400,000, because we understand, Eric, that we can be here today and gone today. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we also have to understand, Eric, that there are two things that we have to deal with in life. One is, if we live a long time, we got
Mm-hmm.
to have a nest egg, and we're
Correct.
gonna we're gonna talk about that on another edition. But if we die too soon, we have to have some good, solid insurance in place. And I think 400,000 can buy more groceries than 50,000. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so let's say somebody passes away with 400,000, Eric, right? God forbid, somebody passes away. We got to take the spouse a $400,000 check. I think, Eric, the biggest check that I've had to deliver a mother, because the daughter was a single parent, was $360,000,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to do a lot for the children and
Mm-hmm.
the mother and all of that. But give us an example of what we can do with that 400,000.
Oh man, so many things. Again, like I said, it depends on what if a person has a mortgage. It depends on how big that mortgage is. You can possibly maybe pay some of the mortgage off. You can set aside some money for the kids' college if there's young kids in the picture. Set aside money for college education. You can also set aside money for retirement. You can put some of that money into, you know, in an investment, and that's going to, you know, draw you a solid rate of return and grow for many years to come. And that can begin to fund, you know, your retirement process, you know, your retirement, you know, at some point, depending on how old you are. So yeah, it's just a lot more things that you can do with that kind of money. I remember vividly having to pay my first death claim in the company, and and here's the thing, coach, it wasn't even that big. We're talking about 400,000 or 500,000, but this particular person, it was a younger person, and they had $150,000 worth of coverage, only paying like 25 $30 a month because it was extremely young, right?
Right.
But because it was not a $50,000 policy or a $20,000 policy, when the young man passed away, his parents were older, but they were able to take some of that money and, just like I talked about, pay off the mortgage. They had a little bit left on the mortgage,
Hmm.
and they took some of the money and put it up for his daughter, uh, you know, college fund. And
Wow.
guess what?
But
He didn't even get a chance to see his daughter because his daughter was, you know, wasn't even born yet, right?
wow.
So
Wow.
so it's a tragic story,
Yeah.
but because they had the right kind of life insurance at a young age,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it just benefited greatly, you
Yeah.
know.
That's true. And by the way, you all, tonight, for those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking about building wealth in the community. And the first initial way, Eric, that we as a community are going to build wealth is we got to have the right amount of life insurance.
Correct,
But we don't have to pay a lot for it, E.
correct.
Yeah, I think I was seeing somewhere a young person, 25, 30 years old, they can get $1 million worth of coverage for 75 to $100 a month.
Yes,
So you don't have to spend a lot to get a lot of coverage. Okay, seven figures, high six figures. You don't have to spend a lot. And for those of you who are interested, DM us some information. We'll get you a quote. We'll do a policy check. And if you're tuning in tonight, share this live with your followers. We want to get more people involved in wealth talk like this. I mean, it's a free platform. People can tune in. And Eric, what I want to do real quick, now that we've talked about having the right type of life insurance, and I'm sure there's some other things we can cover here, but I want to talk about the importance, Eric, of having coverage outside your job. You know, a lot of people say,
mm,
man, I'm straight. I got insurance on my job. My job is taking care of me. What do you say to a person, Eric, that's got insurance on the job but don't have any type of policy outside the job?
I got this saying where I say, you
Right.
know, the job giveth. So that means the job can do what? The job can
Take it
take
away.
it, right? The job can take it
Right.
away, right?
Right.
And the thing is that when you leave the job,
Hmm.
that coverage doesn't go with you, right?
Correct.
So you want something that if whether you get fired or you decide to leave, it goes with you. Also, the thing about job insurance is that the job dictates how much coverage, you know, that you can put on your significant other, your spouse, right?
That's
The
correct.
job might tell you, well, because this is your spouse, we're only going to give them 20,000 or 50,000, right? But
Right.
your lifestyle may say that you need way more than that
Correct.
on your spouse. You follow me? Um it's just vitally important, I think, that you can't depend on your job insurance only, and also your job insurance also, even when it comes to the amounts, right?
Yeah.
The job might say, well, okay, we're going to give you X amount of dollars on you, um, and we might, if you pay a little bit more, we'll give you, you know, 2 times your annual salary, right? But when you break down how much insurance you should have or
Right.
really needs, the job may not give you that. Because most experts say that you need about 10 times your annual salary in life insurance.
Okay.
So
So
if a
Eric, let's stop right there.
uh-huh,
So let's say I'm making a modest income in the U.S. right now. Let's say I'm making $50,000 a year. Okay.
yeah,
How much coverage do I need based on what you just said?
yeah, 500 at least,
At
thousand,
least, yeah.
thousand.
And Eric, people don't have to spend a lot of money on that.
Correct, correct. They don't, especially, you know, when you're getting this stuff when you're young,
Right.
you're healthy, you know, I'm telling you, a term policy is not going to cost you that much, but there's so many times that people unfortunately wait until they're much older. Their health is not the best, and then
Right.
it becomes more challenging to get it, and then it can be even more expensive
That's correct.
down the road. So,
Hey Eric, I just want to take time to thank some people that joined us. We got Steve Crawford on. We got Marlena. Thank you, Marlena, for joining. Cheryl, thank you for joining. Let's see who else we got. Uh, Kizzy, Kise. Thanks for being on. Let's see who else we got. Of course, I got my wife on, Karen Thompson. My wife is on.
Coach
Thank you,
Keegan.
babe. All right, and then we got Zajna Zane, something like that. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but if y'all have questions and you have some like specific questions, inbox myself, inbox Eric. Any questions that y'all may have. We are doing free reviews. So if you have a policy and you want us to look it over and tell you if it's good or bad, because I'm gonna be honest, we're gonna tell you if it's good and you don't need to change it. But if it's bad, we're gonna let you know. We ain't gonna sugarcoat it. We're gonna let you know that there's some reasons that you necessarily don't want to have this particular policy, and we're gonna make sure you get into the right type of coverage. So all we need is your age. If you're a smoker or non-smoker, we will be glad to, give you a quote. Thank you for joining us, said Yazer 285. Thank you for joining. So Eric, the next thing I want to get into, and we only got a few more minutes, y'all. We're gonna probably do volume 2 maybe next week if y'all like this. If y'all like this, put it in the comments and say, hey, we love this. We're gonna have more people on. We're gonna invite more people. Because I'd like to see this, Eric, get up to about 100, 200 people. Okay.
Yeah, man.
But Eric,
Yeah.
so talk about um, the theory of decreasing responsibility, because people got to understand, Eric, you're going to build wealth later. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to build up your 401k. You're going to build up your equity in your home. You're going to build up your pension plan. Talk about the theory of decreasing responsibility, why you need so much coverage now because of what's going to happen when you turn 60, 65 years old.
Yes. So the theory of decreasing responsibility, and that's why we like term policies because it ties right in. And so here's what we mean. So basically, when you are young, right? And let's say when I say young, we talking about 25,
30.
30s,
Yeah.
like that, right? At that time in your life, you probably gonna have the most debt. You
Right.
probably gonna have because you're probably if you were like me, in my 20s, we bought our first home, and then the kids started coming, right? So you got that huge mortgage over
Right.
your head, right?
Mhm.
You got young kids that it brings me back to thinking about what we used to pay for daycare and stuff like that. But I don't know how.
Eric, two at one time.
Yeah, I don't know how we got through that part. But anyway, we made it. But
Sophia,
but
thanks
you
for joining. Sophia, thanks for
but but
joining.
but you think about having young kids. You have mortgage. You got all this bunch of debt. When you're younger, and you have very little money to no money when you're young because you're just getting started.
Correct.
You're really just getting started. But as you get older and the kids grow up, so before I say that, you got all this debt and very little money. So now your insurance needs are more. You need a bigger policy. So if something happens to you,
Right.
it can take care of that mortgage. It can take care of the kids. It can take care of that spouse, right? Because you're younger. But as you get older and you start investing in, your jobs 401k, you start investing in, mutual funds. You start saving money and you start accumulating wealth, right? So now fast forward, you're not 25 anymore, you're 45, you're 55, you're 65, right? But you've been saving, and that's the key thing, and that's why we're gonna probably do another live on talking about the saving. But you've been saving and
That's
investing
volume two, Eric. That's volume two.
and accumulating wealth. So now at 65, for example, if you got $500,000 saved, right, and your kids are now grown, your mortgage is paid for or almost paid off, now your insurance needs becomes less because
That's right.
basically you're putting yourself in what we call almost a self-insured position at this point, y'all, because remember, all life insurance is money. So if someone says they don't want to talk about life insurance, what they're telling you is, I don't want to talk about money because
Wow.
that's what life
Wow.
insurance is. So
That's right.
if you have the money, you don't necessarily need a lot of life insurance. But if you don't have the money, you need life insurance. So again, as later in life, as your expenses come down and your wealth goes up, the less life insurance you need.
So, Eric, what you're essentially saying is Oprah Winfrey probably doesn't, they don't, she probably doesn't have $5 billion worth of life insurance, right?
No, sir. I don't think Oprah Winfrey
She,
or Jay-Z or any
yeah,
of people,
yeah. They don't
right?
need it. They don't
They
need
don't
it.
need
They
it.
got money. They got wealth. They've got assets. They've got real estate. They've got stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And, we're going to get into investments. Eric and I, we're both securities licensed. We're 663, 26 licensed. So we can talk about investments. Because a lot of people say, hey, man, don't get term insurance because, you need to save some money. Well, hey, because we're securities license, we can set up 529 plans. We can set up Coverdell accounts. We can set up Roth IRAs where it's a total tax-free account. And we'll get into some of that talk next time. But
Yeah.
Eric, for our listeners that's following us tonight, I thank Pam Robinson for getting on. I think she just came on not too long ago. But do us a favor, y'all. Share this live. Send us some likes and follow us, okay? Because this is gonna be an ongoing series. And it's funny, yeah, Eric, because I just talked to you about 2 weeks ago about doing a podcast. You remember that we talked about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny, man. You always dragging me into stuff, man.
I know,
You got to
right?
be careful who you hang around, man. But make sure.
But Eric, good thing is I brought you into six-figure income, right?
That's exactly. So I'm mad. I'm not mad,
Right,
man.
right,
I'm mad.
right. So Eric, as we wrap up this thing, man, because it's about 9:33. We always talk about, and we don't really have to get into the dime because we just covered. You really need about 10 times your coverage because
Hmm.
you got to pay for your funeral.
Hmm.
You want to pay off the house. You want to have money for your education to live off of. We
Hmm.
always have to remember, everybody, when the breadwinner passes away, the bills keep coming in, but
Correct.
the income stops. Thank you,
Correct.
Sashin Panther, for joining us. And so we got to understand that we have to start leaving wealth across our communities. Um, there's a lot of stats that Eric and we can give you about wealth. Our communities, we don't have a lot of wealth. So it's we got to spread this word that we need to start leaving 10 times our salary. We got to start leaving 10 times our income. And so if you have questions, inbox us. We'll review your policies. We'll tell you if it's good. We'll tell you if it's bad. And you know, send us a PDF of your policy. Send us something so we can look over it and tell you if it's good or bad. And just a reminder, if you don't have coverage outside your job, you should definitely consider doing something outside your job. Okay. Because when you have that coverage on your job, that's just, a supplemental policy. That's just, and by the way, when you have coverage through the military and you have coverage through your job, that is a term policy. That is a policy that's going to give you a pretty decent amount of coverage. Like the military, Eric, the average person in the military has about $400,000-500,000 worth of coverage.
Correct.
Do you think that's any other thing than term?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Yes, it's term, right? So that's what our philosophy is as a business, as a firm. So we want to make sure that our families begin to create wealth. So Eric, as we get ready to close out, and we're going to do volume 2 next week. Again, follow, like, share, inbox us. Let us know if y'all have questions. Send us some hearts, the whole 9. So Eric, as we bring this volume 1 to a close, give us your final thoughts on, as a community, creating wealth, passing on financial literacy, making sure that our people understand what type of coverage they should have to maximize their benefits.
Yeah, I think financial literacy is something that we really have to buy into. The more we know, the better off we'll be. And I just sit here and I think about, what if our great grandparents and so forth knew the information that we know now? If they knew about
Wow.
those
Wow.
large type policies, the term policies that they could get back then, where
Yeah.
would we all be?
Yeah.
And so there's nothing we can do about the past, right? The only thing we can affect is, or have control of, is what we do this day going forward. And I just would challenge everybody, man, look at your policies, review your policies, and let's start, putting our families, our community in position to leave wealth, and leave some substantial wealth. It's just vitally important. And life insurance, especially what we teach in our business, that's the foundation.
Right.
That's the foundation.
Yes.
And people say, well, man, I just can't afford to get the policy. I can't afford it. And I'm
Can I
like,
answer that? Can I answer that?
yeah.
You can't afford not to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Because if you think you're struggling while you living,
Ooh.
then what happens to your family if you pass away with no life insurance? They're gonna be worse off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just pray that we take this more serious. And we're gonna do all we can to get the message out. And I appreciate you talking me into this, Coach, because this is out of my element, man.
No, man. I appreciate you saying yes. I was a little afraid that you were going to say no, but you got to understand, Eric, you have 20 plus years of experience. Okay. I have 28, 29, 30 years of experience. And we know this like the back of our hand. So why not share it with the community? Why not share it, on social media? And so Eric, as you were bringing, your final thoughts, I was thinking about this. We got to start having more family meetings. I
Mm,
remember years ago, I used to do a lot of family emergency sessions.
mm-hmm.
And Eric, we would get together at Big Mama house and we would have 10, 15, 20 family members. And we would talk about building wealth. We would talk about leaving an inheritance. You know, when you look at our communities, Eric, where the communities are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine this, our listeners, imagine if everybody in the community passed away with $500,000.
Mm,
We could stay in some better neighborhoods. Eric, you know how when you ride around town and you be like, dog, who lived there,
right,
right?
right.
Well, when other people pass our house, they be like, God, dog, how do you stay in a small house like that? How they stay in a house
Yeah,
that small?
yeah,
They call it shotgun house here.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so we gotta make sure that we start delivering a message of wealth, and we got to get back to family meetings and helping our families understand that everybody needs 250,000. Everybody needs 500,000.
yeah.
But the beauty of it all, Eric, it doesn't cost a lot of money.
That's right.
It might run $50 a month. And y'all, that's like $1 a day, as they say. That's $1 a day, $2 a day. It's not that expensive, you all, to have, you know, a quarter of a million, a half a million, $1 million in coverage to leave your family wealthy. Okay.
Right.
So Eric, I gotta say, man, this has been great. I appreciate you joining me. I thought you were gonna say no. I thought you were gonna try to weasel your way out of it. But,
I was close, man. I was close.
no. But man, hasn't this been great, bro?
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of fun, man. A lot of
Good,
fun.
man. Me too. So
Yeah.
listeners, hey, share this live, follow, like, leave hearts. We're gonna do volume 2 next week. And we're gonna get a chance to get into some investments. We're gonna get into, y'all, just to kind of let you all know, I've been doing some client reviews over the last couple of days. And Eric, I have clients that's doubling their money within a year.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric, we talk about the rule of 72, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the rule of
Yeah.
72 says that if you take 72 and divide it by the interest, and Eric, I ain't gonna get into all that. I'm gonna save that for
Yeah.
next time,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
say, but just
Yeah.
just know that there are mutual funds that's doubling within a year now.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into how much interest your banks are paying and how much interest the credit unions are paying. So, because Eric, I looked it up the other day, and this credit union, I won't call no names, they're paying 0.2%.
Wow.
So, and we'll get
Wow.
into how all that works next time. But hey,
Wow.
mom, yeah, Eric, I got my mom
I
on. Hey,
see
mom.
Mama Phyllis on, Mama Thompson on.
Yeah. So y'all, we're gonna tune in next week for volume 2. Thank y'all for being on. Eric and I appreciate y'all doing this. Coming on and listening to what we had to say. Let's go build wealth and let's do something special in our families. Thank y'all and have a good night.
Good night,
Bye
y'all.
bye.